Pennsylvania, New Jersey.
The Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board Committee on Academic and Workforce Success is going to convene.
So she told me to tell you hello.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I told her. Yeah, that's right.
Where are you going? She said, tell Bobby no.
That's thanks.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we do have a quorum. So agenda item 1 is welcome and thank you for being here. This is a reminder that we are still on being recorded live, and if you have a cell phone you need to silence, that would be great. And as reported before, Commissioner Paredes is at the Capitol today for Senate and House hearings on higher education. Hopefully he can join us later. If he does, we'll be glad to see him. Agenda item 2 is consideration of approval of the minutes from the December 14, 2016 committee meeting. Has everyone seen those? We have a motion and we have a second. Any comments? All in favor say aye. All opposed, motion passes. Agenda item 3 is consideration of approval of the consent calendar. Members, item 5H will need to be removed from this consent calendar. We have supplemental materials for this item, and it will be considered under at a later time in the meeting, but we do have these listed, C5D, G, I, L, M, and N. No, not H. That's right. So any consideration you'd like to add or remove? Need a motion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We do not have anyone registered to testify. That's agenda item 4. Agenda item 5 will begin with an interim report, 5A, to the Committee on the Coordinating Board ran dual credit research. This is informational only. Dr. Trey Miller, economist at RAND Education, will provide a presentation sharing results released in the interim report. Thank you, Dr. Miller, for being here today.
Thank you. So hello everyone, and thank you for inviting me here today. My name is Trey Miller. I'm an economist at RAND. The purpose of this briefing today is to share findings from the initial phase of a 2-year research effort that I'm leading in collaboration with the Coordinating Board and Gibson Consulting. The overarching goal of this research is to inform Texas policymakers and stakeholders whether dual credit education programs in the state need to be reformed, and if so, how to reform them to better support state students through teaching, advising, assessment, and allocation of resources, in turn helping Texas reach the goals of 60 by 30 TX. Today I'll present key findings from the first phase of this study, which began in October 2016. Our goal with this initial phase was to provide Texas policymakers and stakeholders with an initial perspective on the accessibility, diversity, quality, and efficiency of dual credit education programs in Texas, and to propose areas of dual credit education to investigate in the second phase of the study. So we recently released a draft report on the findings presented here for public comment, and I'll provide more details on that later. I'd like to take a minute to acknowledge my co-authors who are all listed on the slide here. I'd also like to formally thank the College for All Texans Foundation, Houston Endowment, Greater Texas Foundation, Educate Texas, Community Foundations of Texas, and Meadows Foundation, both for their generous financial support of this project, but also for their collaboration, feedback, and support throughout the research process. So to start, I'll set the overall context for dual credit education. What do stakeholders cite as pros and cons of dual credit, and what does the existing research say about that? Then I'll describe our approach to the first phase of the study and present key findings from phase 1. Given the time allotted for the briefing, I won't present detailed statistics or figures, but I do have them available if questions arise. So, as most of you know, dual credit education programs allow high school students to take college-level courses that simultaneously provide credit towards a high school diploma and a college credential. Dual credit education has been held up as a policy option that could improve college participation and completion, and proponents argue that if appropriately targeted, dual credit could also help reduce disparities in participation and completion across race and ethnic groups. These are goals and needed things to meet 60 by 30 TX. Advocates of dual credit programs argue that dual credit education can help students get used to college expectations, provide academically challenging courses, and help to align curriculum across high school and colleges. Others have argued that dual credit education can help lower costs to students and reduce overall time to degree for participants. However, dual credit is not without its critics. Indeed, some have argued that some dual credit courses may not be as academically rigorous as college-level courses, and hence could set students up for failure later on when they take college courses after high school graduation. Some have also argued that dual credit education could be an inefficient use of public resources. Dual credit education often receives funding from a number of sources, including the K-12 and post-secondary sectors. Also, dual credit students may not always receive college credit for the courses they take as dual credit, or may take unnecessary college courses due to poor advising. Finally, some critics have argued that dual credit education is less accessible to traditionally underserved students, including minorities and low-income students. The national research on dual credit education has been largely positive, but is lacking in a number of ways. In general, national studies have found that dual credit education programs are positively related to student outcomes, but findings for most of these studies of general dual credit education have been based on interviews or focus groups or descriptive data. Most of these studies have not included statistical methods to tease out complex relationships between dual credit classes and student outcomes. While 2 experimental studies of early college high schools have found positive impacts on high school completion and college enrollment, it's unclear how these results translate to dual credit education more generally, where advising and program access is less regulated. Moreover, nearly all existing studies of dual credit education and early college high schools have focused overwhelmingly on short-term outcomes like high school completion and college enrollment. There's little evidence on college completion or efficiency metrics like semester credit hour or time to degree. There's also a lack of qualitative information on implementation and particularly costs of dual credit education. So at present, our study adds to this literature by providing descriptive evidence on long-term outcomes, including college completion. We also provide some evidence on implementation based on interviews with Texas institutions that deliver dual credit. Also, as we will discuss later, we propose in the second phase of the study to provide additional information on costs of dual credit and to provide more robust quantitative evidence on long-term outcomes of dual credit education, and to provide additional evidence on implementation. So now I'll provide a brief overview of our study and why studying dual credit education in Texas is important. So dual credit education has become an important policy issue in Texas. This is partly due to the passage of House Bill 505 in the last Texas legislative session. House Bill 505, which went into effect in 2015, removed limitations on the number of dual credit courses a student may take during high school, the number of dual credit courses a student may take each academic year, and the number of dual credit courses a student can take in 9th and 10th grade. House Bill 505 also allowed high school students to partner with institutions outside of their service area to deliver dual credit. Currently, little is known about changes in dual credit contexts, experiences, and outcomes since the passage of House Bill 505. However, there's been a rapid increase in the number of dual credit courses delivered across the state, and as dual credit education programs have expanded, institutions have developed new ways to engage more students in dual credit programs that may have important implications. Amidst this backdrop, there are heightened concerns in the state around the rigor, efficiency, and cost of dual credit programs. The initial phase of the study, on which our interim report is based, was guided by 4 research questions that I've just listed here for your convenience. We used 3 sources of information to address these questions. First, a thorough literature review of dual credit education programs, both in the U.S. and in Texas. analyses of administrative data from the coordinating board and TEA. We used the most recent data available at the time from 2000 to 2015. And these data do not include students after House Bill 505. Finally, we conducted interviews of dual credit administrators at 15 community colleges across the state. I'm happy to discuss the details of these analyses later, and the draft report has significant detail, but I'm just going to focus on distilling the key takeaways today. So what have we found so far? In general, we found that dual credit participants prior to the passage of House Bill 505 had better college outcomes than high school graduates who did not take a dual credit course. Specifically, dual credit students had higher grades in both dual credit and follow-on courses in the same subject area, higher college enrollment rates, and particularly higher enrollment rates at four-year colleges after completing high school. Dual credit participants were just as likely as non-participants to enroll at a two-year college in the academic year after high school graduation, but over twice as likely to enroll in a four-year college. Dual credit students who enrolled in college were significantly less likely than non-participants to require developmental education upon enrollment. They're also significantly more likely to persist in and complete college. These findings are based on data that include students in all dual credit courses. However, only 7% of these students took CTE dual credit. The overwhelming majority of these students took academic dual credit. In regards to time to degree, we found that dual credit participants took on average 0.5 less academic years to complete a four-year degree. And in regards to semester credit hour to degree, dual credit participants completed their degrees with roughly the same number of semester credit hours as students who did not take dual credit. It's worth noting that semester credit hour to a bachelor's degree was roughly 145 for both dual credit and non-dual credit students. While most bachelor's level degree plans require 120 or so semester credit hours of coursework.
Madam Chair, I just had a quick question. When you say it took less time to complete college degrees, what was that? What was the average hours? Was it 120 or was it?
So they took about the same number of semester credit hours, about 145, as students who didn't take a dual credit course. But after enrolling in college after high school, they took, on average, a half academic year less than students who didn't take a dual credit course to complete their bachelor's degrees, amongst those that actually completed bachelor's degrees.
So the net hours are what?
So the same number of semester credit hours, but less time, and that's because they took some of those semester credit hours while they were in high school, right? Does that make sense? Okay.
That answers my question.
Okay. Basically, I was making the point that both dual credit students and students who didn't take dual credit courses took a lot more semester credit hours than they need for their degrees on average. But the problem appears to be more general and not specific to dual credit courses. Finally, we also saw little incidence of students retaking a dual credit course they took in high school once they enrolled in college. Overall, just 3.2% of dual credit courses were retaken, and most of that retake was related to poor performance in the dual credit course. So things look good in terms of student success prior to the 2015 passage of House Bill 505, but we also found evidence that dual credit eligibility rules that promoted this success came at the expense of limiting access to some to dual credit. We saw wide disparities in dual credit participation rates by race, ethnicity, income, urbanicity, and academic background. While diversity of students taking dual credit courses increased between 2000 and 2015, it didn't keep up with the pace of increased diversity in the overall state. And in fact, gaps by race and ethnicity widened over time. This is consistent with the finding from our interviews with dual credit administrators. They reported strong adherence to dual credit eligibility criteria and used more stringent standards in many cases. In particular, most dual credit administrators reported using TSIA college readiness standards as their primary means for determining eligibility of dual credit coursework. Many also reported that high school guidance counselors limited access through other means, such as requiring students to demonstrate sufficient performance in prior high school coursework to gain access to a dual credit course. So these trends could be driven by by a number of factors, such as differences in dual credit access across high schools in Texas, differences in preparation and demand for dual credit across demographic groups, differences in access to alternative forms of college-level coursework in high school, like AP and IB across high schools in the state, or systemic biases in advising practices at high schools. Just a number of potential factors that could be at play, but our research thus far is unable to pinpoint specific causes of these differences.
Trey, could you take a moment, maybe Julie could add in terms of this particular topic, because you're focusing in, I believe, on seniors, and if you look at the entire high school composition, it looks a little different, I believe. Just to clarify this, it's what you're saying is accurate, but you're going to hear two different numbers from us over time, and I want you to know why they would appear to conflict.
And I think we've looked descriptively at this data overall in terms of the percentages of students from our various demographic groups who are participating in dual credit. And we have seen, when we look at it in overall who's enrolling in high school and the percentage of dual credit students participating, we have seen an increase in diversity in terms of in terms of our enrollments in dual credit. And Trey was looking at it from a little different angle, and so I'll let you.
Sure. So while the diversity of dual credit participants has increased over time, that has been driven by the fact that the state has diversified over time as well. So we see that increase in diversity, when you look at it, has not kept up with, of dual credit course taking, has not kept up with the pace of increasing diversity of the state as a whole.
Okay. I believe you had told me that you looked at people that were seniors in terms of that. So if you look at the overall high school, we have had an increasing percentage of minorities relative to, so they haven't matched it, but we are increasing participation at that level, but our senior class does not. So, and it's a difference in terms of if you just look at seniors versus looking at 9th through 12th graders. And you're going to see some of this data. The one reason I want to point out, in our 60 by 30 text website, you will see that the percentage of Hispanics, for example, has increased. It isn't matching the distribution, the overall demographics of high school, but it is a much higher percentage than it was early on. So
that's true.
This may be more detailed than you want, but when you see this other site, I think you'll wonder why. We're still concerned here, and in 6 by 30, we say we need to increase participation, particularly of economically disadvantaged students. But
all of that is true. The diversity of the dual credit population has increased. Okay. Next slide. We also found significant differences in dual credit instruction and advising practices across institutions we interviewed. Dual credit administrators reported a number of approaches to ensure that dual credit and college credit only courses were comparable. For example, state policy mandates common learning objectives for all lower division courses, and dual credit administrators reported the use of common syllabi and departmental oversight of instruction and assessment in many cases. Guidelines by the regional accrediting body set minimum qualifications for college instructors, but they do not guarantee that dual credit instructors have equivalent academic backgrounds and teaching experience. Indeed, our data analysis showed that, for example, 41% of dual credit course seats were taught by a high school teacher, and half were delivered on a high school campus. 82% of all students in dual credit courses were high school students. So the majority of high school students exposed to college content were not exposed in classes mixed with college students. 12% of dual credit courses had an instructor with a doctorate, compared to 19% in college credit-only courses. Dual credit administrators also reported significant variance in advising practices across dual credit programs that related both to context, particularly distance from the partner college and whether the high school was an early college high school, and resource availability. In some cases, institutions had dedicated advisors that made frequent trips to their partner high schools and actively advised students. In other cases, partner institutions provided training and materials to high school guidance counselors to provide advising under the oversight of the college. So the research we presented here was meant only to provide the lay of the land and the groundwork for the second phase of our study. It leaves many questions that we propose to address in the second phase. These include assessing how institutions have responded to House Bill 505, which removes state grade level and semester credit hour restrictions for students participating in dual credit, conducting research to examine the causal impact of dual credit on student outcomes, particularly for minority and disadvantaged students, investigating the extent that strategies and techniques used to teach and assess student learning and dual credit courses are comparable or as rigorous as that of college credit-only courses, examining the types of guidance and information high school and college counselors give to dual credit students and identifying factors that promote efficient course taking, and calculating the cost of implementing dual credit programs and the financial savings, if any, they generate for dual credit students and the state. Assessing the degree to which dual credit programs efficiently use public resources will be key to helping state lawmakers determine where they should allocate spending to improve dual credit programs. Details about phase 2 are in the interim report. So given the significant gaps in our knowledge about dual credit programs and the fact that our research to date did not identify any pressing need for immediate policy action, our primary recommendation is to wait until findings from the next phase of our study emerge to make major changes to policy affecting dual credit programs in Texas. So just a timeline, next steps. We recently released a draft report for public comment on the findings that I presented here. That draft report is available on the coordinating board's website, and we'll accept feedback and suggestions from the public through April 17th. After we've received public comment, we'll incorporate feedback and revise the report accordingly and publish a RAND report on the RAND website. We aim to have the published report as soon as possible, and I've provided my contact information on the slide for questions. So,
Thank you for being here today. Fred?
Quick question. Dr. Miller, you heard the earlier presentation, I think you were here, about the transferring of courses. Is it a big issue with, students in this range?
I think you have similar issues with transfer of dual credit courses as you do transfer in general. We're looking into that. The finding that semester credit hour to degree was similar amongst dual credit course takers and non-dual credit course takers was encouraging, but I don't think it's definitive in terms of saying that there's not a issue with transfer. There's large selectivity issues, so the students who take dual credit courses navigate that process to taking the dual credit course and are, signaling that they want to go to college at an early stage. So without having taken dual credit courses, it's, reasonable to think that they might have completed their degrees with less semester credit hours. There's also potentially larger issues with transferring to four-year degrees, four-year institutions as opposed to the institution that delivered the actual dual credit course. So a large share of students that take a dual credit course then enroll in that same college, and it's probably less of an issue there.
You could answer this a little differently, and everything you said is correct, but part of what people are encouraged by with dual credit is believing it will reduce costs to the student, and that is true. But if you look at the fact they're taking a little over 140 hours, that the state is still paying for 140 hours. And in fact, not all students who take dual credit have tuition waived.
Yep.
And it's and a fairly small number of schools deliver most of the dual credit. So it's actually presenting some other questions in terms of transfer that we hadn't thought about. And if you think about Julie's analysis of the 140, I think you would find some similar things.
And we actually did just very recently, this is kind of hot off the presses, we just decided when we looked at that data I shared with you that we should look at it for dual credit students, and those native students who started, who had done dual credit but started after high school at the college where they completed, if they had done dual credit, they did on average have 6 hours more than those students who had not done the dual credit. Now, what's interesting is we aren't able to look at AP and those types of courses, but for the dual credit, there is state funding, as David mentioned, that goes towards those courses, and students are sometimes paying tuition.
I think, just quickly, your comment about time to degree, the important thing is what Trey mentioned, is that
Yes.
once they actually leave high school and enroll in college, they spend less time there, though the hours that they have may end up being about the same. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Miller, I do have, Madam Chair, if I may ask a really quick question. Thank you for your presentation. One of the concerns that I've heard from the community colleges based around this topic is just the sheer fact or the nature of who's actually providing the instruction, whether, what the requirement is. And is the requirement 18 hours over a master's in that specific? What are the requirements for that? And then who's paying for that or encouraging that extra certification that they may need if they're a high school teacher or something like that?
Sure. So those guidelines are set by SACS, and I think it is the 18 semester credit hours of college coursework in the field that they would be teaching the course in. As we showed, that does not guarantee that the dual credit instructors have equal, education and experience teaching college courses as typical, students or instructors teaching college credit only courses. So they're much less likely to have a doctorate degree. A lot of them, 42% of dual credit courses we showed were taught by student or current teachers in public schools in Texas. So that's a large share.
And I think I would just recommend that if at some point in your second phase of your study, I think that would be interesting to find out how that's correlating with the expectations of the community colleges and other colleges, quite frankly, because I know there's a lot of discussion about when they actually come in, are they really academically where they need to be for that particular course? So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
So, and maybe you said this, and Julie, maybe you just commented on, so the average student who participates in dual credit enters college with how many semester credit hours?
I don't have that number at my fingertips. On average, in a given semester, students who take dual credit take between 5 and 6 semester credit hours. We see maybe over half of the students take 12 hours or more while they're in high school. We expect that's going to go up under HB 505 now that the doors open more widely for students to take more hours when they're in high school. So I would, Trey, I don't know, I was thinking of around 12 semester credit hours.
I can't, so we did some analysis on this. I can't remember off the top of my head the average, given that you took
We'll get
some.
that
but
figure for you.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to figure out, how big of a head start do they then have, and how much further down the road does it make them? And once again, time to degree is a big piece of what we're trying to understand, and how much more efficient does that
Exactly.
make it? Of course, if they're still all taking 140 hours, that's not getting us ahead of the game, really.
That 12 hours does probably represent that half a year earlier that those students graduate.
Graduating.
And we, there's a lot of pieces that go into it. We do have some students who start at the 2-year, and some of the transfer issues affiliated with their dual credit at the time at 2-year. It's all very similar. I think that's also true, though, for the students who start at the 4-year, who may be taking some dual credit courses for which they believe they will receive credit and transfer, and then they do not. So some of those same issues we were talking about earlier in terms of advising and students understanding what they need to have for their majors, that's important for dual credit students and really important for us to make sure that, that information gets down to those students in high school.
And I'm also wanting to understand the difference between a student because you can start taking dual credit as a 9th grader?
Yes, you can now, yes.
So the difference between a 9th grader's success, I don't know, it just seems so different to me, being a freshman taking college-level classes versus being a senior taking college-level classes. And I don't know how to articulate what I want to see from that or how we measure it, but it just seems intuitively that there's a real difference there, and what's the quality of what they really derive from it. I'm really wanting to know that.
Sure.
And we've certainly started to look more closely at that data. I know Trey's group hasn't been able to follow through. We've just looked yet, and part of this study, of course, is to look more closely at what happens with those students who start younger. But we have seen an increase in the semester credit hours for those younger students. I think we need to look and see what courses they're taking. I think there's certain courses that the schools are targeting at those younger ages. But we've had a lot of conversations here around maturity and our students ready to gain what they need to gain. We do have, of course, eligibility requirements. We talk a lot about our college-ready standards and whether they should apply and not. We've got some more general eligibility requirements and rules. So we're certainly having those conversations, and we're really pleased that Rand is taking a closer look at this and is going to be able to follow some of those students moving forward.
Sure.
When House Bill 505 was passed, were there no guidelines? Was it just open the door and let's let everybody come? Because we already knew our college-ready students coming out of a regular high school graduation at 18, we have so many who are not college-ready. Why did we pass a bill that just said, oh, let's open up the doors, and then, of course, schools are going to try to fill every seat, because that's how they get paid, right? It's formula funding. Mm-hmm. That's how they get paid. Right. So they're just trying to put anybody in a seat. So is it what we're trying to do with this RAND study is figure out what the coordinating board can do to really tighten this up and make this a better option? But I agree with Bobby. A freshman, I was a pretty smart kid when I was a freshman, but I couldn't have taken college course.
What happened since then?
I don't know. But I just, I do feel like that. And when we're talking about increasing diversity, well, are we looking at college readiness? Are we just trying to fill seats?
I think that's a really important question. So Julie already mentioned that one of the concerns has been that we still continue to require college readiness. And there's some thought out in the world that maybe why? Just let students take it. But we still think that's important. And how do you do that? There's the notion of if you expand who teaches. So
right.
There are only limited resources, so you know that more high school teachers will have to do it. So how do you have those people who are prepared to do that? How do you make that happen? So there's some talk about possible additional certification so you understand what rigor is in a college course. There's just a whole range of issues embedded in this. Julie brought up advising. There's some majors if you want to major in certain things in college, there just aren't going to be, there are a number of dual credit courses that will not really count towards that major.
Right.
And that's why advising becomes important. But part of this is, with so many policies, if something appears to be a good thing, well, let's make it even more of a good thing by expanding it. And so I think part of what the commissioner has been saying is, this is something that's been helpful, but let's make sure as we move forward that we don't make it less so, that we don't eliminate reduce the rigor, that we don't make it something that isn't really a good tool And I think you were at least alluding to the fact that right now, some of what we see in Trey's data is many of these students are, because they were college ready, would be going to college anyway.
Well, that's.
And they probably would have been fairly successful anyway.
It skews some of our data because really the teachers who are going to encourage college-bound students are going to say, come on in and start early. And you're right, they were already the top of the class. They were already your higher achievers. They were already motivated. They had family support already. And so, yeah, it probably overwhelmingly helps them with their college bill. The other great thing is for the colleges, they don't have any financial big burdens. The building is the high school. The teacher is the high school. I don't see any indirect costs there. And so they're just pulling in formula funding because they can. And you have one more question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and just, actually, your comment led me to think forward about just the facilities of the colleges. I mean, if we're increasing enrollment, which is what we want, right? But if we're increasing it a lot faster at a quicker pace, then you have to take the perspective of the universities or the community colleges and say, now we need this many more classrooms. Now we need this many more, facilitators and researchers, et cetera. So it just, at some point, that will have to come into play, because if I'm sitting here as a community college and I know I've got some interest or some articulation agreement with the high school, then I'm going to be looking at it going, I'm expecting 2,000 more students in 2 years. And how am I going to facilitate that with my on-campus facilities that I have right now? So it's just a food for thought.
So all of these questions that, and comments that you're bringing up just really kind of emphasize, I think that in the second phase of the study, the questions that we've proposed and are working on, I think kind of speak to a lot of the questions that are coming up here around costs, and that's a key part of the second phase of the study that we'll be working on. Also, thinking about, you mentioned these are, would these students have done well if they hadn't taken dual credit? So we're working on a methodology to kind of tease out the actual, real causal impact of taking dual credit courses. I think that'll be really illustrative as well. So.
One thing we haven't mentioned is early college high schools, and some of these students are in early college high schools, and they have structures in place that can help students that you might not otherwise consider ready, and that's done through TEA, and I having been over there recently, I know they're really looking at that closely right now to make sure those structures stay in place. They may have been a little less diligent recently, but now they're really looking at that very carefully. Included in this, as Trey mentioned, are career technical dual credit courses, and they have different requirements. And we know with the change in the high school curriculum, with endorsements, we believe the percentage of career technical dual credit courses will increase. And so we need to look carefully at the difference between those. Their intent is different. The requirements to get in are different. And there's even something we need to be aware of in parents and students to make sure people receive adequate information to know that you can do certain things with a CTE dual credit that you, or with an academic dual credit you can't do with a career technical dual credit, but there's career technical is more open. There are a lot of these things. The phrase dual credit's used, but there are different things embedded in it, and they're both important, but they provide a different purpose. And so there's some real important communication issues that come out of this as well. So the good news is that the commissioner wanted to do a study to make sure that this is done in a strong kind of way, an important kind of way, and I think we're getting good work.
Janelle,
this is really more of a technical question. The statute 505, what does it require the institutions? Is there an entry criteria for a student to enroll? It seems inherently intuitive to me that most people age 14 are not capable of college level rigor. and academic achievement. And then the dovetail on that is, what can this board possibly do? Can we institute some standards? You must have a PSAT. You must have a certain amount. You can't go into a university as a freshman and take upper division courses unless you've already completed the lower division. What are you doing in college in the 9th grade?
Right. In terms of what 505 did, it didn't change the eligibility standards, which we have in rule, which say a student either has to be college ready or meet certain eligibility standards, which maybe aren't as strong. What it did is say, unlike where in the past where students were only to take dual credit when they were juniors and seniors, and only to take up to 2 courses a semester unless they were deemed an outstanding student. It basically said students can take dual credit from freshman to senior year, and it opened it up to allowing them to take as many semester credit hours as they wished. So in terms of those eligibility standards, again, for the academic dual credit, they're still there, as David mentioned. For the technical dual credit, they're not, but it's not just strictly eligibility through our TSI college readiness standards. There's some additional pieces, and we think there also may be some, I don't want to use the term loophole, but we do have some situations where we think students, where it's perhaps not as clear as it could be about for which classes students have to meet those standards. So I think there's some work that we need to look at there.
I think we should mention that the University of Texas system and the Texas Association of Community Colleges are jointly sponsoring a dual credit committee simultaneously.
Yes.
We have several staff, Jarrell and Julie and Rex, that are participating in that, and I am when I can, that are working on similar issues and trying. So we're working closely together. They're keeping in touch with Trey. They're keeping in touch with our staff as well. We're sharing data. So this isn't just an isolated on our part. So we're working together cooperatively.
So I guess the short answer is the coordinating board can set standards for people to be able to take those courses.
There are rules around, yes, standards for those courses, but there would no longer in the rules are there restrictions on the number of dual credit courses a student can take or their level in high school.
Right now, you have an exempt score based on an ACT
Right.
and SAT.
Correct.
This is for college readiness.
Yes.
There's a TSIA.
That's correct.
These are things that you have set,
Mm-hmm.
and you still have the power and role to do that. There are some tests in the public schools that used to be a way to do that have gone away. There's still, I don't really
the
know the
tax
details
test
of this,
used
that
to
exists, but
exist.
some of the access points have gone away.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
Okay, sort of following up, or just my question, what are the members of the governor's staff, I would ask about, what they thought about 9th and 10th graders taking dual credit. Were kind of non-committal, but they said, oh, well, they take the TSI test. So, does the TSI, I understand the ACT, the SAT, I don't know what the scores are, but is that a good indicator of college readiness?
Yes, but we have the TSIA test, which of course you're all familiar with, but as I mentioned before, there are other eligibility standards written in, and for some classes, I'm not sure that it's always applied consistently. So I think that's where we'll look at.
One issue with students that are in high school with the TSIA is it's not like other tests in public schools that are free. Somebody has to pay for that test. If you take it when you're going to college, you pay. It's a low-cost test plus some administration fee. But one issue, we actually raised this as a possible rule about a year ago, and Trey's finding there seems to be more access to the TSIA than we would have thought. But one of the issues raised was, how does a student actually, how are they able to take that test? And that's been discussed somewhat in this legislative session.
So I was just going to say, in the interviews we did with community college administrators, overwhelmingly, they said that they use the TSIA as their, standards for determining eligibility to take dual credit courses. That's what the 15 community colleges that we spoke to said. That's what they use primarily.
And so, but you guys are convinced that somebody that makes a certain score, whatever that is on TSIA, that truly indicates college readiness and, you know, readiness to take one of the dual credit courses.
Well, I mean, we have worked, and Darrell may want to say more, but we have worked with the College Board. This was aligned with the college and career readiness standards. Would it mean that you're ready to take any possible thermodynamics if that's
Yeah,
not
got it,
available?
but
no, but
Sure. Well, we test English, writing, and math. So for that first level college course, we're expecting you at least get a C or higher. And we actually go back and check to see how we've been doing to actually validate our scores and what we come up with. So the short answer to your question is yes, we feel pretty confident about it where it is. What's interesting now with the growth of dual credit is with 9th and 10th graders, the TSI is based off of certain levels of classes, so Algebra 2 or English 3, which some of those students haven't even taken yet. So it makes it increasingly
so they don't
difficult.
pass, and they can't take dual credit. So it's a good barrier or entry, you know, a hurdle.
Well, so the dual credit eligibility is different from you taking TSI. So kids who can take dual credit or students who are taking dual credit don't necessarily have to take the TSI exam. And that's what's gotten confusing. Okay. What Dr. Gardner was saying is, you know, our kind of impression is that if you want to take a college course, you should be college ready. But I don't necessarily think that the rules and the laws actually lay it out that way. So we had other measures of allowing students to show that they might do well in college or do well in a college course through dual credit, but a lot of those measures which Dr. Gardner laid out were certain scores on TEA exams that they no longer have. So we felt pretty confident previously that those exams were good measures, but those exams have now been removed. So you're not required to take Algebra 2 end-of-course exams or the English 3 end-of-course exams, which would have been good measures for us when we were comfortable with them.
now can just take the courses. It means it's you know, we're concerned that it may be happening in some cases, but based upon the rules, they still have to demonstrate largely that they're college ready, but they don't have as many opportunities to demonstrate that by something.
For the academic
concrete.
ones, that's correct.
Yeah.
For the academic courses.
Dropout rates? Because, you know, if they stay in the course long enough, the school still gets paid the formula funding, but they still dropped out. And, of course, they're not paying for tuition. Who's paying the tuition? If I were actually in the community college, I would have paid tuition, but the high school kids are not paying tuition. What happens, what's the failure rate on these? You know, how many drop out? We still paid the formula funding, but we didn't get a kid who got a credit, and nobody paid tuition on it.
Sure. The pass rates of the dual credit courses, we primarily looked at courses taken by 11th and 12th graders because we were doing work, you know, our analysis was based on prior to House Bill 505. But the pass rates were quite high, and withdrawal rates were quite low. So, so higher pass rates and lower withdrawal rates than the same courses taken as college level courses.
Which really probably doesn't parallel real college courses.
Well, what I think may happen also is that when high school students get into dual credit courses and realize they're over their heads, that they move them out into the regular courses fairly early on. And so I think there might be some withdrawal that's happening before it would get reported to us and before we would see it. Because, of course, if a student failed the dual credit course that is the college course but is also counting for high school credit, then in most cases they wouldn't get that high school credit. So I think that sometimes you do see that activity where early on, if a student clearly realizes I'm over my head, or a faculty member might, you know, advise a student, hey, this is, you know, you're just beginning. But we don't know for sure how much that might be
So
happening.
you've kind of gotten our feel of where we want to go for second phase, for questions and answers you can bring back to us. Fred, you had something else? Anybody?
Quick question.
Dave.
Yeah, just want to follow up with Dr. Booker. So these end-of-course tests like Algebra 2 are no longer required. But what if that was the requirement? Because you've tested it, and you know the students that can pass that end-of-course Algebra 2 are probably ready for college-level mathematics. It ought to be a one-way gate, and you have to go through the gate to get inside the amusement park. You understand where I'm coming from? Why can't we just simply say, you have to give them the test if they're going to get into that class?
The test is no longer offered.
Let's offer it.
Is that?
That's correct.
That's not the right answer.
The legislature, TEA is no longer required, and school districts are no longer required to give that test.
I know the TEA doesn't require it, but why can't THECB require it?
So the end of course exam, if I just kind of remember for Algebra 2, I don't know how many millions it costs for them to actually make it and distribute it. So what they've done is they've pulled that off the table so districts don't have to spend all that extra money to actually provide that more tests. So what they don't want is more tests. So for us to go back and require a test that most of us, I think 95% of school districts don't even offer or have no intent to offer, kind of would make it difficult for still these students to have an opportunity to actually take it. I think it would be very hard for us to require a test that this K-12 no longer offers.
SIA exam actually would address that same
That's correct.
ability as that exam, in fact, more fully, more completely than that one exam.
Well, let's talk about this offline, but I don't think Algebra 2 end-of-course exam has changed much since 1972 when I took it. So I don't understand why it costs millions of dollars to make a test that exists back then.
It didn't exist then.
Mathematics has not changed.
The exam that you're referring to.
Gravity and
does
entropy
not
are still in
exist.
force.
It's not a final. It was a standardized exam developed by a testing company.
If there are no more questions, we'll release Dr. Miller from this punitive whipping.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. All right, Agenda 5B1 is consideration of adopting the staff recommendation to the committee relating to a request from Sam Houston State University for a Doctor of Education degree with a major in higher education leadership. Dr. Peebles is at the Capitol, is that where he went? And so we have Dr. Stacy Silverman, Deputy Assistant Commissioner for Academic Quality, here today. Are there any questions? We do, I believe, have some guests if we have any questions. If not, I'm sure they don't want to be interrogated by this group.
See, I think that if people have traveled to come here, that maybe that we should call them forward.
So we do have quite a few people here from Sam Houston. Dr. Richard Engsler is here, the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, the Dean of the College of Education, Dr. Stacy Edmondson, and the Chair of the Department of Ed Leadership is here, Dr. Anthony Harris. So I will briefly tell you that this is a proposal for a Doctor of Education, an EDD degree in higher ed leadership. And Sam Houston has been offering a cohort of this under its existing EDD in education for several years. So they would not have a cohort model at this point from the main group, but it would be a standalone program. So I'll turn it over to you all.
Welcome, thank you for coming today. Is there anything you'd like to tell us about the program?
Can you turn your microphone on, sir?
Sorry, thought it was. I'm sorry. Currently, we have a doctoral program, EDD program, that is called Educational Leadership, and within that, we have two strands or two tracks, one for those who are interested in K-12 leadership and those who are interested in higher ed leadership. So what we're requesting is to transfer that or to remove that as a strand or a track so that it'll become a standalone doctoral program.
Questions, members?
And you have two other guests with you. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the program?
Good. I'm Stacy Edmondson. I'm the Dean of the College of Education at Sam Houston. I actually was formerly the Department Chair for Educational Leadership and Counseling and actually the Doctoral Director before that for this particular program. So we have had cohorts with the higher ed specialization for over a decade now. It is a strong or an area of strength for our program, and we spend a lot of time and research in investigating whether or not this would be a good option, not just for our program, but more especially for our students. And we are firmly convinced that this is the right thing to do for the program and for our students and our graduates.
So I move approval. Unless,
Dr. Eckler?
yes, sir, do you want to say
No, I was
something?
just supporting what they said here, that, education has been very important to Sam Houston State. We service a lot of the community colleges within Montgomery and Houston area that are very enthusiastic about the program, so we're very much in support of it.
All right, we have a motion.
And I just have a question after you make the motion.
We have a second? Discussion.
So I'm looking at the regional map. It looks like we don't really have much in Northwest, Central, South Texas. Are you getting students from all over the state? Because I know Sam Houston has traditionally been more of a regional university.
It's still pretty much regional, the Harris County area, the Houston area, the Montgomery County area. That's our catchment area. That's where we tend to get most of our students, even though we're not opposed to going outside of that area. But primarily, we want to focus on those students in our backyard there.
And your graduates, what would this degree allow them to do that they could not do without that attainment?
Many of our students aspire to be college presidents and university presidents. Those are terminal degrees. Those obviously are required for those sort of leadership positions. And many of our students are in community colleges now. They're currently in administrative or leadership positions. And as we know, as the baby boomers continue to move into retirement, there's going to be a strong demand for those leaders with our sort of degrees.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, members, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. Our next item is also Sam Houston State University for a Doctor of Philosophy degree with a major in digital and cyber forensic science. And again, Stacy, you want to introduce this?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. This actually would be the first in the nation, and it does build on the existing national and international reputation of the existing programs at Sam Houston State. We do have some folks here who can address this. Joining us is Dr. John Pasquarella, Dean of the College of Science and Engineering Technology, and Dr. Peter Cooper, Professor and Department Chair of Computer Science.
Wow. So I've been to Russia twice. Let's talk. So this is a very exciting for Texas to have this. So you want to talk a little bit about the program, Dr. Cooper?
Yes, I would. Let me start by giving you a little bit of history. Then Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson was the first to start this off. She provided us with federal funds to begin a Center of Excellence in Digital Forensics, through which we trained law enforcement across the state in appropriate handling techniques and analysis techniques for digital devices. So that was the beginning. We introduced in 2005 a master's program in digital forensics, and in 2008 a master's program in information assurance and security. Having sat through the previous committee's meeting, I realized that you all have a very strong vested interest in protecting the assets of the state and also of the public. And this is what this doctoral program is wanting to address. So digital and cyber forensic science is really the reactive component in terms of information security. So when a breach occurs, we are concerned that we have the right tools and the right people to analyze what happened, how it happened, and who perpetrated the problem in the first place. So that's what the forensics is for. We do not have a national program that addresses this. We do not have a state program that addresses this. We don't have standards across the country, across the world, that address the forensics issues. Those standards that do exist are draft standards. The American Association of Forensics Examiners, for instance, have draft standards for digital forensics, but they don't address cyber forensics. So this program is providing both the research leadership and the academic leadership for the next generation so that we have a coherent plan to manage our assets across the state and across the country.
Dr. Pasquarello.
This program we're bringing forward because of the excellence already demonstrated in our master's degrees, as well as the concepts that Dr. Cooper just addressed in terms of the lack of a program at the national level. In your material, you noted that there are no other degrees. There are 2 programs that have concentrations in this area, but no program that has a dedication and focus on this. So at the college level, this is our first doctoral proposal. We have master's degrees across many of our academic units. I would not be bringing this proposal forward if we didn't already have such a strong master's degree. And over the last 5 years that I've been the dean, we have recruited, I want to say, 5 new faculty, many of whom are focused in this area. And so we have a group of young faculty very active in this area, and I think also very excited about the idea of working with doctoral students.
Yes,
You know, I want to stress that the focus of Sam Houston remains at undergraduate education. That's our bread and butter, we know that, but we do have niche programs at the doctoral level, both in education and in forensics, be it in psychology, be it in criminal justice, be it in forensic science, and now hopefully digital forensics. So with that.
It is a good fit for the criminal background, yes.
This is great, but you talked about reactive. What about proactive? How do you flip it and play offense? Is that something that is evolving, where system designs and being able to protect that? And ultimately, as you saw from our previous committee, we'd like to offer some internships for some of your PhD candidates to come help us make sure our servers are secure.
When I refer to it as reactive, I meant after the event. So information assurance and security is proactive. The reactive component doesn't just mean defense, it can also mean offense. And so the reaction would be find out who did this, how they did it, and then go after them. Just as a couple of points, the cybersecurity division for the state is housed in Austin DPS. The leader of that division is one of our alumni out of my program. Also, your Director of Access Control for Health and Human Services, also here in Austin, is another alumnus of our program.
Other questions?
Move approval.
I have a motion. Second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much for coming today. You want to take a couple more? All right, we'll take a couple of more of these before our lunch break. We have from Stephen F. Austin, a Master of Science in Nursing degree with a major in family nurse practitioner. I believe from Stephen F. Austin, we have Dr. Sarah Bishop, Dr. Crystal Bray, and Dr. Janice Henserling. And I'll let Dr. Silverman take this.
Great. This is going to be an online program. More than 85% would be offered online. And the institution commits to hiring an additional faculty. And this would actually fulfill a regional need for more nurse practitioners in the area. So their idea is to pull from that surrounding area and really focus on producing more family nurse practitioners, which we all know we need more of.
Very good. All right, Dr. Bishop, you want to start off? Be sure you turn your little microphone on, the red light.
Okay, there we go. I'm really loud anyway. I'm the director of the nursing program. We currently have a baccalaureate in nursing and an RN to BSN, a transition for our community college partners. Our community has been asking for this for years. Probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we attempted to start this master's, and due to issues with funding, we didn't get above the university level. To help alleviate that this time, we wrote a grant and received a grant for $750,000 startup from the Temple Foundation. So we would have money to say, look, we're ready to go. Our Board of Regents is very, very on board with this. They're excited about it. Our providers are excited. And we get calls from former students and from students who have gone to other schools frequently saying, when are we going to have a nurse practitioner program? So we're ready.
Dr. Bray?
We have designed the program to meet the national standards of our national accrediting body, the Master's Essentials in Nursing, and the standards from the National Organization of Nurse Practitioner Faculties. The courses have been developed consistent with those standards, and we feel confident with the 46 credit hours and 720 clinical hours that our students will be ready to sit for certification exam and meet the board requirements to be able to practice in Texas as an APRN.
Yes, Dr. Hensling.
Well, I'm a nurse practitioner and I have been for 20 years now. I've been a nurse for 40 years, so, but we have in our area, we have a lot of support from our physicians and nurse practitioners. There's a lot of nurse practitioners in our areas that are willing to be preceptors for our students, and that's a really, really important thing for them. So we are very excited about this. Nacogdoches is, and the area around us is. So we have a lot of support for this, and we appreciate.
I just want to make one additional comment. The material that you have shows the need in East Texas, and the need in East Texas is significant in the fact that all 12 counties are designated as underserved, medically underserved, and for low health provider shortage areas. Nurse practitioners are prepared, and our program specifically is prepared to meet those needs of the underserved areas in East Texas.
So you think by year 5 you'll be graduating 69? Is that what I'm startup?
I have to think.
Or you would have 69 enrolled?
That's right. Right. I was going to say,
Well,
I don't
that's
think we
pretty
can
good.
get
Not at one time.
Wow. I don't think we can get 69 graduates in 5 years. I was trying to add them quickly, and it didn't.
Actually, you would, because you have
Well, we
student
could.
head count of 69 in year 3.
Our first cohort will graduate in year 3.
It's a 2-year course, right?
No, it's a 3-year course because it is part-time.
Yeah.
Maybe by year 6.
Right. We
So-
chose to make it part-time to help our working nurses because they generally work full-time and go to graduate school.
Madam Chair, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, I fully support it. And you're right, it is very underserved in that area for primary care. And you can have a primary care doctor pull in 2 nurses like this and expand his practice by double or more, 5 times.
5. I've used to practice in that area, and I can tell you it's tremendously underserved. I've been behind the pine curtain in Lumberjack Nation. And Dr. Hensling, you must have got 9th grade dual credit courses if you've been in nursing for 40 years.
Well, I have. I'm a young kid, let me tell you.
That's right. You were the Doogie Howser before there was one.
From St. Augustine, Texas, let
There
me
you
tell
go.
you.
Behind the pine curtain.
That's right.
We hate to admit this, but all of us have over 40 years of experience. I am not a nurse practitioner. These are my experts in nurse practitioner. I'm the behind-the-scenes support person for them. And I am just, if you would see what we have to submit to the Board of Nursing in April. The book is about this big. We're happy to share it with your committee if you'd ever like to see it, but it is a very rigorous program. The rigor is really important to us, and the fact that we produce nurse practitioners who can not only pass boards, but that are safe is really, really important to us.
So move approval.
Yes, we have a motion and a second. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to, are we in discussion?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make a comment that I am so impressed by all of your hard work and dedication, and to everyone here from Sam Houston. I'm sure my colleagues on the board join me, but Dr. Hoyt is just an amazing leader, and Chancellor McCall and
Stephen F. Austin.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're Stephen
Sorry,
F.
wrong line. But I just wanted to say that I'm very impressed by just the fact it seems like you put a lot of thought into it, not just demographics, but the need in the area and your expertise and making certain that it's a top-notch program. So I just want to just congratulate you and thank you for
you very
being here
much.
and making the ride here.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to take one out of order real quick due to a flight schedule. We have from Texas Tech University a Master of Science degree with a major in manufacturing engineering. We have Dr. Ho Chao Zhang, interim chair and professor of the Department of Industrial Manufacturing and Systems Engineering. Thank you so much for coming today. Dr. Silverman.
I'm just going to say briefly that Texas Tech has 11 master's level programs in engineering already and offers several courses in manufacturing engineering. The degree is currently available at 4 public and 1 independent institution, and the proposed program would fulfill a regional need at a low cost.
So Agenda 5B5, I'm sorry, I didn't announce that. So thank you, Dr. Zhang, for being here, and do you have any comments you'd like to make on the program?
First of all, thank you very much. Allow me to present this degree program, and also apologize because of my flight schedule. I have to hurry to the airport.
Just one flight
This is
a day.
actually the latest flight. This is the latest flight back
When do you
to
need to
Lubbock.
leave by?
1:30. Okay. Anyway, we got this idea actually from our Industrial Advisory Board about 2 years ago, and from the job market. And they told us an on-the-market manufacturing engineer's job is highly demanding, but it's very shortly supplied. So based on that one, we conducted the survey to our current undergraduate student in the industrial engineering department and also mechanical engineering department. We got very, very positive result from the survey. So that is give us an idea we would like to propose this degree, and also based on American Society of Engineering Education, and published the paper in 2014, and for this nation. And the demanding for the manufacturing engineers is 267,000, but the hires only 3,595. So this is a big demanding here, and also it's in the proposal. And the other one from one of the consulting company, Deloitte Consulting, and with the also Manufacturing Institute, published the paper in 2016. They said, and in 2016, the demanding for manufacturing job is 3.5 million, but 2 million will not be able to fill because of the less degrees. So also this is one of the publication and by this Bureau of Labor Statistics report in September 2016, the demanding and the supplies is very much different. So here I provide this one too. So this is the motivation. And in general speaking, all of the faculties is available courses already as we offer to the industrial engineering degrees. So in general speaking, we don't have any problem for this degree.
This is one of the most affordable programs I think we'll approve. So yes, Dr.
So, sir, your flight leaves at 1:30? So you need to get going? So I think we have all the material here. We've reviewed it.
I
Thank you
have
for
a
your
motion?
presentation. I make the motion, yeah.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
The motion passes.
I will have very smooth flight.
Hey, those flights to Lubbock are not frequent. Yeah, they are. All right, we're going to backtrack now to agenda item 5B4 is consideration of Texas A&M University Commerce for a Bachelor of Science degree with a major in electrical engineering. I believe we have Dr. John Humphreys, Dr. Brent Donham, Tina Livingston, and Erica Contreras. Dr. Silverman.
Yes, sir. This program, the institution has agreed to hire 3 new faculty, 1 before the program begins, 2 in year 2, and they will seek a BED accreditation as early as possible. That's, I believe, upon the graduation of a student.
That's correct.
Okay, who wants to tell us about the program?
I will.
Dr. Don?
Again, my name is Brent Donham. I'm the Dean for the College of Science and Engineering, so I appreciate very much this opportunity to speak. The electrical engineering would be the 3rd engineering program that we implement, and so while she mentioned the hiring of the 3 faculty, we already have a cadre of engineering faculty teach the beginning cohort that are common among all the disciplines, so it is not starting just fresh from that. We have already made an offer to 1 faculty pending approval, coordinating board, and that individual has already accepted that offer, again, pending that. Both our other programs have been successful. Both are ABET accredited already, and so we likewise would seek on this one. This fills a very unique regional need, not only in the Dallas-Fort Worth, but specifically where we're at and kind of in the rural Northeast. Our largest employer, as evidence of that, is L3 Communications in Greenville, Texas, which is located about 18 miles south of us. They employ about 7,000 individuals on their plant. 2,700 or more are engineers. When Commissioner Paredes was out visiting us, the CEO and the Vice President of HR were able to meet with him, and currently at L3 in January, had 168 openings for engineering positions that have gone unfilled. More than 50 of those are electrical engineering. And they stated one of the things they have found, because of their location, it is hard to recruit individuals from out of state and even large urban areas. In fact, they state that the average length of stay is less than 3 years, typically 1 to 3 years. And with the security clearances that are required that take 6 to 8 months, their return on investment is very poor for individuals who come in and leave short, whereas the longevity of individuals who come from Commerce and the surrounding area tend to be a lot longer because they're from that region and want to remain in that. The numbers that were given, we are the 4th largest providing engineers to them last year, and that's without an electrical engineering program, which is one of their largest business. If you're not familiar, they're a defense contractor. And so it's
that's
very
about as strong a case as you can make. So I move. We approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions?
Dr. Humphreys, why haven't you done this before?
Well, that's a good question. They have been pushing us in this direction, and many of our industry partners have, from an engineering standpoint, but just came to the forefront now more of the electrical, that the electrical need has arisen. And because of that, it has now become a strategic priority for the university, and we are setting aside funding because we think it's important for our industry partners in the region, because there's other strong manufacturing base relatively close as well that would be in great demand for these students. So, Stacy, why on our analysis does it say the job market need is weak?
That is the overall state market,
Okay.
so it's not specific to the region, and we're producing lots of electrical engineers
Right.
in the state, but the attraction to that particular region may not be great, clearly.
And I just want to make sure that when we're
Right.
printing these, that we take an additional regional perspective in addition to the state perspective, because, yeah, I'm looking at this going, hearing this, reading that, and I want to make sure it ties. Thanks.
You know,
Do we have a motion? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Motion. You have a question?
I can't make a second, but go ahead.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
So I think what Chairman Jenkins brings up is really important, and thank you for your testimony because that was very helpful. I think the critical issue about some of our regional universities like yours is that if you teach the locals, they'll stay there and they'll supply the trades for the employers. And that is just a huge economic boost to the area. And it's an unmet need. And so I would agree with Chairman Jenkins. I think somehow maybe we need to have a bullet that this is the state but there is a asterisk on it that says the region has identified these particular problems with attracting and retaining, and then the security clearance. I mean, I've been through security backgrounds. It takes forever. And I'm a little surprised you have industrial and construction before you had electrical. It seems like electrical comes before everything else, but congratulations.
I'd just like to note, there clearly is regional need. I think it won't apply in all cases. And I think we need to, where we have something like this, it should have been included, but we have to look at it differentially. For example, certain major metropolitan areas can readily draw from across the state and across the country in a way you can't here. And so that's where we really have to work more carefully with the institution and with the Workforce Commission to identify that. But it will play out differentially, and it will play out differently by degree type as well, but we should have included that here.
Well, this is one of the more expensive programs, and so my question is, have you approached any of these companies, industrial people who've made investments in your community? Are they willing to make investments in endowments, that sort of thing, in programs like this? Sponsor a chair, pay for a professor, something like that. Have you approached them?
We have in the past. For example, just for one example, L3 Communications that Dr. Donham mentioned, actually one of their leadership positions retired. They paid for him to be on our faculty for 5 years at A&M Commerce. They hire a tremendous amount of interns. Their executives serve on our advisory boards. We have good relationships and good contacts there. We even teach a master's cohort program in management for L3 Communications. So we think we've got good relationships there, and this will only further them.
That's good. All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much for coming. Agenda item 5B6 is the Texas Tech University Health Science Center in El Paso for a Master of Science in Nursing degree with a major in nursing. I believe we have some guests here. Dr. Jose Manuel de la Rosa, Dr. Penny Cooper, Dr. Christian Herber Valdez, and Dr. Silverman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is, the proposed program would be the first master's level nursing program at the Gail Grieve Hunt School of Nursing at Texas Tech University Health Science Center, El Paso. The program would be a hybrid program with more than 50% offered online, but less than 85% offered online. The institution has agreed to hire 2 faculty before the program begins, and will seek accreditation as soon as it is able to.
Okay, Dr. Cooper, you have something you'd like to share with us?
Sure, thank you for the opportunity. Our community of El Paso has identified for us, as far as stakeholders and employers, practicing nurses and our graduating students, that they want to increase their opportunities for graduate education. This is one of the areas that our stakeholders have identified as a great need, and so we're hoping that this will be our first graduate program that meets the needs within our community.
And Dr. De La Rosa, you have, or the provost, yes. Any comments?
First of all, let me specifically address the coordinating board staff. They were very helpful in pointing out some of our strengths in being able to plan for this. This specific course of study allows us to bring people to the border and to learn about the border. It focuses a little on interdisciplinary education and rounds out our courses of studies in the other health-related institution areas. Again, I'd like to thank Dr. Silverman and Dr. Peebles for helping us see ourselves as a better institution.
Madam Chair, always interested in your thoughts.
Well, thank you. So currently you only have the bachelor program. Do you have an RN to BSN program?
We have a BSN program with 2 tracks. One is an accelerated 16-month BSN program, and the second is an RN to BSN completion.
Right. And so this would be your first master's?
That is
And
correct.
what's your enrollment currently, undergrad?
We have approximately 150 students currently enrolled.
And the market need for this master's program, because you have one just down the street, right?
We do. Our colleagues at UTEP have this program. Theirs is an online program, and we are told, because we've collaborated with them on this, they have a capacity of 100 and have 61 enrolled at their last numbers that they gave us 6 months ago or so. What we're told from our colleagues, from our potential applicants, is that they want a Texas Tech degree, and they want to stay in the community. The other difference is that ours is a hybrid program, so they also want connections with the community, with the university, and the campus itself.
So where's the demand? Hospitals?
Well, they're mostly coming from the hospitals. We have approximately 30 commitments for support from our community of need, specifically our teaching hospital support.
Our advisory council for the school includes all the chief nursing organizations of the 9 hospitals in town, and they have actually requested this major as our primary one.
So with only a projection of 50 in 5 years for your head count, a fairly expensive program, do you feel like you'll have some support from the hospitals to offset cost? You could get endowments? What's that?
Both, actually. We do have commitments of support from prominent community members. Actually, the Gail Grieve Hunt School of Nursing is a completely endowed institution. The Paul Foster School of Medicine is an endowed institution. The Hunt Foundation has given us an additional commitment for an endowment. In addition, the hospitals, all 9 of them have committed for tuition support to the individuals, not necessarily to the institution, but to the individuals.
Similarly, they've asked for this major so that they can hire and retain local nurses in their facilities.
And will well, I see your major as nursing, but, you know, a lot of it is education that we've talked about. We have a shortage of nursing instructors, and so by pumping up this population, it does give community colleges and other educational schools some potential faculty.
It does, indeed.
So, okay. All right. Well, thank you for coming today. Yes.
So Ms. Shepard is as always, one step ahead of me on this. Your graduates, if this program is approved, would be qualified to be nursing educators.
They would, sir.
Yeah, I think that's really, I mean, I have yet to see a nursing educator not tell me our greatest need is more nursing educators. So it may give you a regional pool of nursing educators into the future. You have community colleges in that region?
We do, sir.
How many?
We have, depending on how you define the catchment area, 3.
And they have nursing programs, so, yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion? We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Agenda item 5B7 is consideration of adopting the staff recommendation to the committee relating to a request from Texas State University for a Doctor of Philosophy degree with a major in computer science. Dr. Silverman. Let's see, we have Dr. Denise Trouth, Dr. Andrea Galata, Dr. Ho-Chi Shi, and Dr. Ann New. I may have gotten those right, maybe. Dr. Silverman.
So I will say this proposed program builds on the strength of the existing master's program. It's got a strong core faculty in place. There are 12 existing programs, and 2 are within a 60-minute drive. However, the strong institutional commitment and funding resources of the proposal really led us to recommend approval for it.
Okay, so
That again, the strong.
The funding, the commitment, so they have secured several grants, which I'm sure they'll be happy to talk about.
Tell us about that. Yeah.
right, Dr. Trouts, you want to start?
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about a program that we have been building for several years. And I also would like to thank the staff of the Coordinating Board for a multi-year dialogue that we have had on this particular program, because it is a very exciting opportunity, not just for Texas State University, but I think for the state of Texas. One of the things that is of concern, I think, is that although the demand for PhDs in computer science is increasing, the number of people who are graduating with PhDs in computer science is not reaching that demand. And that is something I think that affects all of the state of Texas. We are proposing a program here that focuses on leadership, innovation, communication, and entrepreneurship, preparing people both for industry and academia. It is a applied program with 2 tracks, one in information management and the other in software systems, and I will defer to my colleagues to tell you more about those tracks. But let me tell you, answer your question specifically. This is a program that we have been planning for many, many years and assembling the faculty and other resources to support this program. One of the data points that I would point out about the faculty who are not only at Texas State right now, but have been at Texas State for several years, 3 of them have garnered NSF Young Investigator Awards. That is pretty unheard of for a program that doesn't yet have a PhD. So we have invested in this program, and we are prepared to continue investing in it. We have a stellar faculty in place. We have the financial resources ready for the kind of fellowships that we need in this program. I think we're ready to go.
All right. Anybody else have any comments you'd like to make, or? Go ahead.
Andrea Gualato, Dean of the Graduate College. I just wanted to point out that we have, that this program is very innovative in the field of computer science, and that, as President Trouth mentions, it combines entrepreneurship together with computer science. And we have a similar program already on our campus in materials science, engineering, and commercialization. And that program is highly successful, graduates PhD in just under 3 years. And so it is a very successful program that also places students. And we think there are some intersections between these programs, and we have every confidence that this program will be just as successful as our youngest PhD programs that was approved before.
Right. Dr. Shi?
Hey, actually, we have been enjoying good support from the OP administration, the president, the provost, our deans, so most of the resources we need to start this program is already in place. So, and like, President Trouth said that we have a strong faculty. Actually, I want to add one more item to that. Actually, more recently, we got one of our faculty got the PCAS Award, which is the highest honor to young scientists and engineers in the nation. Only 102 people got this in every year. So our faculty is going to go to Washington, D.C. to meet the President Trump. So we are ready, our faculty are ready for this program, so we can, once it's approved, we can immediately start the program. So.
Is it Dr. Wu or Dr. Wu? Yeah, just knew. I thought I got it right. Yes, ma'am.
I just,
Oh, be sure and punch your button so it's red. There you go.
At the fact that, this program is unique, like we are the first in Texas to formalize offering computer science PhD degree program with a combination of commercialization and entrepreneurship. And so this way, I myself was educated in a traditional PhD in computer science, where students tend to just get trained in the technical knowledge and then expect to get a faculty position and stay there for life. But then there's a need to change this kind of training. I solely believe that, and this is echoed by the National Graduate Council, as well as the NSF, where they believe we need a more transformative way to educate PhD students so that they had a choice of multiple career paths. And this is what this program is designed for. And we also focus on some area that is pretty strategic in terms of human-computer interaction, data analysis, software system, networking, security.
Very good. I see you have over $7 million federal funding. Who got that for you? Who worked hard? All of you?
Those two.
Dr. Shi?
Yeah, our faculty work together. Like President
that's
Charles mentioned,
huge.
3 of them got the career award. Each one is like 500,000, and so we got grants from DOE,
Congratulations.
DOD, and the NIST, and we also got a lot of grants from grants and contract from companies like Google and Huawei and NVIDIA, those companies.
Well, so it looks big on paper, but if you go back just to the formula funding that we owe you, it's pretty cheap. So any comments, questions?
I just have a comment,
Yes.
Madam Chairwoman. Dr. Trout, thank you for being here, and along with your team, congratulations on this proposal. I know you spent a lot of time on this, and appreciate the updates. Even though I'm not a graduate of Texas State, I'm a supporter, and get your alumni magazine, so I do review it. So keep up the good work. Y'all are doing a really good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, impressive presentation. So moved.
Yes, we have a motion. Second. And a second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to make one comment as Dr. Trouth walks out. I still remember when she made a commitment years ago that doctoral programs coming out of the institution were going to have her hands all over it to make sure it was brought forward with great strength and commitment from the institution. I think this is a great demonstration of
That's a
how
good
you've
example.
stayed true to that comment. I'll never forget that.
Thank you, David.
And we appreciate you being here, supporting your team as a president.
All right, agenda item 5B8 is West Texas A&M University asking for a Master of Science degree with a major in engineering. And I believe we have Dr. Emily Hunt and Dr. Angela Spalding here, and Dr. Silverman.
So this is a general degree program in engineering with specialty tracks in civil, mechanical, and leadership administration. The institution agrees to hire 2 core faculty by year 3, and it would serve a regional demand with a strong industry support.
Okay, West Texas. All right. Let's see, Dr. Hunt or Dr. Spalding, either one of you want to start?
Yes, so this program is born out of workforce demand, as have all of our other engineering programs have been. We started bachelor degree programs in engineering in 2003. In the last 5 years, we've seen a growth of 88% in our undergraduate engineering programs. We have a very unique growing Hispanic population as well at our university and in our engineering programs. In the last 5 years, seeing an increase of 185% in that student population. As these programs have grown, our workforce has reached out to us and requested that we start providing opportunities for master's education.
I would add that our university is geographically unique in that we serve the top 26 counties, the northern counties of Texas. And so this program has been a multi-year discussion with advisory groups. We were very sensitive to the needs of that rural environment in those 26 counties. And so this really is a product of that collaboration with those workforce groups and our advisory councils. We've had the commissioner on our campus as well to vet what we're doing, and it's very much supported by our institution.
So on this regional demand, what are some examples of industries that are supporting this?
The largest supporter of our programs has been Textron Bell Helicopter. Our first program came through a collaboration with them in 2003 through 2005. And so we have a growing aerospace industry in our region, but also our power and energy generation, both with natural and renewable sources, is growing as well. We have a strong connection and support with UL, who has a facility also located on our campus. And so we have strong workforce demand from aerospace and power to have opportunities for these programs.
Have you seen the windmills up there? Yeah, exactly. Well, this is a good economical investment for us, I believe. And any questions, members?
When are your flights? When is your flight?
2:35.
Oh, they're flying to Amarillo, no problem. Yeah, so.
Thank you for being patient, and I know you were at the end. So move.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you
so
very
much. All right, 5C and 5D were on the consent calendar. I believe at this time we'll take a lunch break. Yes.
I've got a comment just for the staff. So we have these people that come in from all over the state on these new degree programs. Wouldn't it be a good idea to move that up and make that the first item on the agenda, so that?
That's the staff.
Yeah.
Well, I can make a comment about that.
Because we had this.
I agree, John.
We had this discussion with Rand, and that could have come after this, and then all those people that came in could have been gone by now.
And part of the problem is that the chairman of the previous committee that just met let it run about 2.5 times the original projected length. Staff had me on a 1-hour agenda, and I said, there's no way that I can get them done in an hour. So we ran a little long in front of this. But when we post these things, we have to post these with the Texas Register as upon adjournment or no later than such and such a time. So they all thought that we were going to have a 10 o'clock start. So they all got here before that, just like you did. I saw you come in thinking we were going to start Ms. Shepard's committee. And again, the previous chairman was completely derelict today and let it run for 2.5 hours as opposed to just 1 hour. But I would agree with you. If there's some way we can style the schedule to accommodate our guests, some of them drive in, some of them fly in the same day. And I don't know, maybe there's a way to reach out to them and say, what time do you think you're going to arrive?
Yeah, so I believe the staff has taken this and we'll discuss it over lunch. It's not an agenda item. We're going to dismiss for lunch. We'll be back in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
can have better jobs as they're pursuing higher education and continuing their education.
All right, the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success is reconvening after lunch. We'll begin with Agenda Item 5E. Consideration of adopting the staff recommendation to the committee relating to approval to amend a contract with Texas A&M University to increase funding so that additional services may be provided through the Advise Texas College Advising Program. Jarrell.
Thank you. Jarrell Booker, Assistant Commissioner for College Rating Success. We received some additional funding of about $50,000 that we'd like to provide to Texas A&M to actually provide not only professional development for the summer for our Advise Texas advisors, but also summer melt. You may remember there's a students apply but don't show up. Well, this allow our advisors to help with their school districts to make sure students show up in the fall to actual institutions that they were accepted to. So we just asked to amend their current contract to allow for this money to be used for that purpose.
Any questions, members? We have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 5G was on the consent calendar. 5H is consideration of adopting the staff recommendation to the committee relating to the reallocation of work-study mentorship program funding. You have supplemental materials on this. And
Madam Chair, that's the one that you pulled off the consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't marked off my script. So, very good. You guys are. So it was taken off the consent, but it is still an agenda item. Yeah. Okay.
And just
correct?
Yes,
okay.
it is.
Yeah, you're good.
No, I was just confirming. I'm not correcting.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Go ahead, Jerome.
And the main reason is the dollar amount of every year we come back when we realize that programs are unable to spend their some of their work-study funds, not enough students applied, or they don't have the workers for it. So we bring that back into the agency and then redistribute it to institutions that have students that are well ready and willing, particularly during the summer. So what you'll see is a redistribution of those funds that actually came back, and we're sending them back out.
We don't want any dollar left unspent, so, yes. All right, any questions for Jarrell? Do we have a motion? So moved. Have a motion and a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Agenda item 5I was on the consent calendar. Agenda item 5J is consideration to adopt the Certification Advisory Council's recommendation to the committee relating to a request from Medicine Biomedical Equipment Technology School for an initial certificate of authority to grant degrees in Texas. And again, Dr. Peebles is not here, but I'll ask Dr. Stacy Silverman to fill us in.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And at this time, I'd like to actually call up Paul Schuler, a program director in the division, and ask him to brief us on this proposed proposal and the recommendation for approval.
Working?
Morning.
All right.
Afternoon.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me fill you in on this. The school is seeking approval for certificate of authority for an associate's AAS degree in the biomedical engineering technology. They already have been offering for several years the certificate level of this, and they found that their employers of their graduates were seeking people with degrees primarily because they are being promoted into management right away. And so that's why they wanted to go into the associate area. We did we put together a site team that did a visit in December 2016 and found that there were, of the standards, all but 4 were met. 3 of those 4 were easily fixed. Then a 4th item, they have fixed, but they're still they're new and wanting to offer this, and so there's still some to do with that to fix the 4th or last standard. So the CAC committee agreed to pass it on approval to this committee, CAWS committee.
Is there any, I see this is in Dallas. Is there anybody else offering this in Dallas?
Not that I'm aware of.
I know there's workforce demand, definitely.
Right. Not this specific, though.
Anything in Houston or Austin?
I don't know.
Okay.
Madam Chair, is this the way this would normally, we have somebody from the coordinating board staff,
Normally, Dr. Peoples would present this.
right, but would anybody come in?
The medicine, the person who would have been here is out of state, had other commitments, and so he could not make it.
But he would.
Normally, he would be.
Normally, you'd have somebody sitting next to you?
Yes.
If we authorize an associate degree, it would still be fairly closely monitored by the coordinating board.
Absolutely. And a certificate of authority, it lasts for 2 years. They have to reapply every 2 years, and they have to be making their way in obtaining accreditation.
Just curious, what's their tuition?
No, off the top of my head, sorry.
That's all right. All right. Any other questions, discussion? Need a motion? Have a motion? I need a second. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Agenda item, let's see, 5K is a report to the Committee on School Closures or Teach-Outs pursuant to Chapter 7, Subchapter A, Section 7.75. Dr. Silverman.
Thank you. Again, we've had two institutions that have given us notice that they are shutting down. And for any additional detail information about this one, I would ask Dr. Schuler to come back and brief us. I don't know the details on these things. But I do know that we've got two that have shut down.
Happy to answer any questions.
So are there any issues with records or teach-outs on these?
No.
Okay. So basically, they are following the guidelines that we've asked for them to do.
Yes, they are.
All right, no action is required on this report. Is there any discussion or questions? All right, thank you very much, Dr. Schuler. Agenda item 5L, 1 through 4, were on the consent calendar. Agenda item 5M and N were on the consent calendar. Agenda item 4O is a final report to the Committee on the RAND Graduation Education Study. This is informational only, and you should have a report in your materials. Dr. Silverman.
Thank you. Yes, you should have both an executive summary and a full report in your at your desk. And I'll just summarize a couple of the salient points related to the RAND study and some follow-up that we're going to be doing as staff, working with our Graduate Education Advisory Committee as well. So importantly, the RAND study really encourages us to place more emphasis on the link between doctoral research programs and an institution's strategic plans. So to make sure that they align with the institution's strategic plan. For master's degree programs, that we're ensuring that they're going to become accredited. And as you noted in my remarks today, I really kind of tried to emphasize the accreditation, that the institution would seek that as quickly as possible. If there's not an accreditation process for them, we're going to encourage institutions to adapt some sort of standards for themselves so that they can monitor those programs a little bit more closely. Additionally, we're thinking we'll scrutinize the quality of the online master's programs. We've had several of these programs really take off, and they're producing a lot of graduates, but we're getting questions. The RAND report really highlighted some qualitative issues related to whether or not those programs are as rigorous, and we're going to take a look at that using our Learning Technology Advisory Committee. Additionally, we're going to encourage institutions as they submit proposals to really work with their system offices and work with us early on in the process. We also are exploring whether or not we can have a market labor analysis tool available to institutions as they begin to draft their proposals. And additionally, we want them to consider the professional standards, and when an institution begins to elevate itself, to not lose sight of the students that would originally have gone there. So to make sure that they don't lose their way when trying to move towards excellence. And also to continue the ongoing program reviews for graduate education and the low producing reports that we do, and bring that information back to you all as well, so that on a regular basis you know the sort of status of graduate education in Texas. I'm happy to answer any questions. I want to say thank you to Charles Goldman and Rita Cram. Their work on this was really, really outstanding. They do such good work, and it's just delightful to work with them. So, and thank you to the institutions who participated and provided all the information to the RAND folks. I thought the process went very well. But I'm happy to address any questions if you have them.
So the next step for this for this report, obviously it'll go to the board to be approved, is that right? Or is it just a legislative report now.
Yeah, no, it's not legislatively required. This was initiated, actually Rex originally recommended a study, and then we worked with RAND to develop it. But our last conversation with the commissioner was that he would like to see if perhaps at the July board meeting we could come back, have a more complete discussion of the report with some representatives of institutions. So we could have them respond and talk about things such as the degrees being part of the strategic plan of the institution, which is not always the case. So we haven't worked that out, but we just had that conversation a week ago. We can bring it in for approval earlier if you'd like, but we probably don't need the discussion till, if we do follow up as the commission would like. We don't want to have you duplicate the same discussion.
Do you feel like it'll give you guidelines that would change the way the staff now processes applications for master's programs?
Well, it may not necessarily change the process, but it might change the emphasis. So we may want to take a longer look when programs are going to offer something online, even a new degree program. Let's take a look at what that looks like and have some standards in place. One of the other important uses for this report, I think, is going to help us frame a strategic plan for graduate education, working through the committee, the Graduate Education Advisory Committee, what we lovingly call GAC. So,
And they've been charged with doing that, but they were backing up and waiting. And one important thing that happened with 60 by 30, which they noted themselves when they first heard 60 by 30 is, well, we've primarily been, the GAC, we've been primarily paying attention to doctorates. We also need to pay attention to masters. And that was brought up by them themselves. I thought that was an important realization. And I think this report emphasizes that. So that's important. And it also, you know, we've had chancellors coming in talking about sort of the master plans for their systems. And we had originally hoped they would actually address some things like this as well in terms of expansion if you have, if you haven't. So it may be we need to provide better directions to make sure that they've sort of focused on what's going to be their research emphasis in a way we haven't before.
Very good. All right, anybody else? If not, the next agenda item is adjournment. I need a motion. Second. All in favor, say aye. All right.
Madam Chairman, so Dr. Silverman, you did a great job subbing for Dr. Peebles, so thank you.
Okay, folks, safe travels.
Oh.